Welcome to today's video, and today we are talking about the squat. So this will be a direct response video to Mike Izutel from Renaissance Periodization. He did upload a video titled "Why Front Squats Are a Terrible Idea for Building Muscle." So I will answer this question about the front squat. Then I will talk about my own experience and opinion about the squat. And then I will talk about the squat if you have an injury prone lower back, just like me, or my lifetime while squatting I did snap up my lower back about 15 times. So this will be a very important video and we will talk about these three things. So here in the background I did show some videos for starters, how I was squatting in various periods of my own life. So here's a small challenge for you. Try to look at each of the video and name the mistakes that I did make in my form, and then maybe you will spot the difference why I have snapped up my lower back that many times. So I will get a little bit later to these videos and we will talk about each in detail about the form. First of all, I will open the discussion of showing you this video from my home gym, talking about the major mistakes that I did made and what is a correct form of squatting in the first place. Welcome to my home gym, and now I will demonstrate you the steps if you really want to snap up your lower back. So you want to avoid the things that I will show you right now from the side perspective. So first of all, we will start with the chest, with upper back. If you are, for example, bench pressing a lot, then you are arching your upper back like this. So this is step number one. If you want to snap up your lower back, is to initiate the squat with an arched upper back position. Step number two is about the hips. So the hips can be neutral, then they can be in a posterior pelvic tilt forwards. And if you really want to snap up your lower back, you are putting them in this anterior pelvic tilt position. So like this. Step number three is imagine that you have here a wall that is going on from your toes to your knees, and you don't want your knees to go past this wall. So when you will be initiating the squat, you will be doing like this. So you will have almost none forward knee travel, maybe just a little bit, but then you will go into a hip hinge position. Step number four are about your feet. So you will keep your feet planted here on the floor and you will not allow your toes to lift up. Most of us have limited ankle mobility, so our Achilles tendon here cannot stretch that far, and that way we cannot achieve a deep squat, and then you will see that, for example, your lower back takes over. That's why you have this butt wing, and then you have this shear force here on your lower back, and then you can snap it up. And step number five is you will allow your torso to shift forward, like in a low bar position, and you will not keep a vertical torso. So now let's combine all these five steps, and this is how you really snap up your lower back. So we have step number one, step number two, and then all these other steps, and your squat should be looking something like this. It may be an over exaggeration, but you see a lot of people that are squatting like this in this low bar position, and this is a recipe for disaster. It will destroy your lower back, especially if you will go in a deep position. So what's the solution if you have an injury prone lower back like me to squatting? Well, we must fix every step. So step number one was an arched upper back. So as you see, the ribs are flared out here, and we want to do the opposite. So the ribs should be stacked with your hips, with your pelvis. So the starting position at the squat should not look like this, but like this. As you see, ribs are stacked here. Problem number two was the anterior pelvic tilt. So we don't want to have this position right here. So that's why you push your butt forward and keep your hips neutral. Problem number three was imagining this wall right here and not letting our knees go past towards it. So we must break the wall and allow our knees to travel forward. It's not a dangerous position at all. Your knee joint has the ability to do this. So you have here knee flexion, full knee extension. As you see here at the knee joint, it's a natural movement. So we don't want to also squat like this. Just look how little of range of motion are we getting here at the knee joint. We want to have full range of motion. So that's why we break this imaginary wall. After that, you will see when I will descend into the squat, because I have limited ankle mobility here, I will end up standing on my toes. So my heels will shift forward and then I will keep a vertical torso. So I will not lean forward, I will stay as upright as possible. And if you combine all these 5 steps, it should look something like this. Ribs stacked, neutral pelvic tilt, you go on your toes, knees forward, and you end up here in this bottom position. As you see, I have here limited ankle mobility, the Achilles tendon cannot stretch, that's why I cannot put my heels here on the ground. The knees are going past my toes here, the torso is vertical. So that's how a squat should look like for me naturally, if I'm performing it naturally like this. But as you see, it's not a stable position if you want to load it. For example, with a bar on our back, holding a dumbbell like in a goblet squat, or like in this video, doing here a front squat, because we will end up in this position right here. The heels are elevated. So the solution is very simple. We must put here something on our heels. That's why you have, for example, a squat wedge, and just see how easy the solution is. I put it here behind my heels and that's it. I have here perfect stability and I can perform them, the squats, like this. So these are heel elevated squats, and that solves all the issues. So in the best case scenario, you will be using such a squat wedge, for example, which is made of rubber. It will not slip at all. It's stable. Avoid having such a cheap piece. This is from China. It weighs nothing. It slips around, so it's very dangerous. Then you could put theoretically a few plates here and squat on them, but also I don't like this option very much. It's not that stable, they slip around. So it's better if you have, for example, rubber flooring, put it on the ground, step here on the rubber flooring. It's not that high compared to the squat wedge, but also you can perform squats like this. So if you take out your phone, you measure it, it should have between 10 to 20 degrees of elevation. After watching this video, I think you got a better idea of the mistakes that I made in the past and what squat form works for me personally in avoiding snapping up my lower back. I have switched to pure hypertrophy training now for over 1 complete year, and this switched my mindset in the complete opposite direction. So I have already given up on the squat for many years because of the 4 mistakes that I made in the past. But after dwelling in pure hypertrophy training, I did give squats another chance, and I analyzed what muscles I want to target with the squat and what were the major mistakes that I made that would cause my lower back to snap. So I analyzed the squat in terms of muscle groups. We have the spinal erectors, we have the glutes, we have the quads, the hamstrings, and then the calves. And then I analyzed if we are performing a full knee flexion, knee extension, what muscles are working in the squat. So the spinal erectors are stabilizing the spine, they are working isometrically. The calves are almost not working at all. The hamstrings are also playing a stabilizing component. In my opinion, you will not get big hamstrings if you are performing the squat. That's why you have a hip hinge if you want to work them in a stretch position, or you have a leg curl if you want to work them at the knee joint. And then we have the glutes and quads left. So primarily when doing the squat, the main idea will be targeting the quads, and also the glutes will be worked automatically. But if you observe the mainstream information, especially if you observe the powerlifters, power builders, they are performing the low bar squat, and in my opinion, Tom Platz, the quad father himself, has summed up the problem with the squats pretty well. So I completely agree with Tom Platz's opinion. If you would describe the squat with one word, the word would be bastardized. So the complete form of the squat has been bastardized. That's why you see a lot of people, especially in the powerlifting, power building community, and also in the commercial gyms, are performing the low bar squat, and it has been turned into a hybrid lift. So you have a hybrid between a squat, between a hip hinge, and between a good morning. So that's why they only squat to parallel and not deeper. You don't have the full knee flexion, knee extension. So the quads are not the main mover. Everything is shifted onto your back, onto your hips, onto your posterior chain. So that's why you can develop big glutes, spinal erectors, also the hips. But if you are looking at the quads, they don't get the full development that it used to be in the old days. So that's why I started to analyze my form, and I wanted to have in my home gym a movement purely for quad development. And then I looked at the technique, and it didn't make sense at all, the low bar technique. You are performing this hybrid lift, squatting only to parallel, and then I thought, why? Why should you squat only to parallel? Why can't you go full range of motion to get full knee flexion, knee extension, and do such a style that purely targets, biases the quads? So that's why I started searching in information how to bias your quads when doing the squat with a full range of motion, and that's how I came to the solution, how to do the squat without snapping up your lower back. So here I will show you a video of one working set of how I'm performing front squats now. So from my technique you can see it's quad focused, full range of motion, relatively close stance. The toes are pointed just slightly outwards. I'm controlling the eccentric, pausing at the bottom and then exploding back up, and everything is controlled throughout the movement. So I don't have a forward torso lean. I'm staying upright as much as possible, and I'm doing here the front squat, and I have been doing this now for almost half a year, and I didn't snap my lower back, which is very surprising. And I even look forward now to my leg days to performing these front squats, and I really want to develop my quads right now. And now I will return to the videos that I did show you in the very beginning of how I used the squat back in the day. So in this video you can see I was squatting here in my garage. The bar was placed on a ladder. It's a very embarrassing video to share it with you, but nevertheless I must show it so you can understand the mistakes that I did make back in the day. So this was my squat form where I didn't look at any videos at all how to perform it, and the reason why I started squatting here in the first place was to increase my vertical jump for wall ball. So I was training wall ball, and I did grab a book titled The Vertical Jump Bible, and there it was advocated that you should do squats. So that was my form, the best as I could. And here you can spot many mistakes that I did make. So I did make a screenshot here of the video of the bottom position, and just look at the range of motion and the mistakes that I did make in the video. So here you have the shin, here you have the thigh, and here you have the spine. So this is the complete angle, and you don't have here a full knee flexion at all. I was using here also a box, a chair, so I was limited in the range of motion. So I'm not even going to parallel here, I'm only going to here. And ideally I would have something like this, a full range of motion. So that's the reality of how my squat is looking like. So as you can see, the torso is way forward, It's not vertical at all. My chest is up, it's arched, and the back here is also hyper extended, and the knees, they don't go past the toes. So I was talking about the imaginary line, the wall that you can see, and you see here zero knee movement in the front. And then I'm bouncing all over the place, not controlling the movement. So that's how I was squatting in the beginning. Then I have this second video from a side perspective. So here you can see another major mistake that people are making, and it's quarter squatting and half squatting. So there's not enough range of motion, depth here. So how can you expect here to build massive quads? Here are the shins once again, here are the thighs, and here is the spine. So once again, I'm not hitting even parallel and not talking about full range of motion in the first place at all. So once again, terrible squat. And unfortunately, many people are doing maybe not quarter squats, but I see half squats all the time in the gym because of the form that people are using. So here once again, chest is up, lower back is hyper extended, you have a torso leaning forward, so that's why you are limited here in range of motion, and at max you would go only here to parallel. Here is video number 3, also from back in the day. So from this video you could say I did make some minor improvements to the form, but if I analyze it while taking a screenshot, you can once again see here are the shins, here's the thigh, the spine. So I'm hitting here more close to parallel depth, but nowhere close the full range of motion. Once again, you can see that the head is looking here forward, so the chest is once again up, back is hyperextended, and if I would go any deeper here, then I would snap up my lower back for sure. Then I have this video right here. So that's about 5 or 6 years later when I was working in the commercial gyms, and here you can see how my form looked at that time. So I was performing more of a high bar squat, but still this was the time where I mainly did snap up my lower back, and the technique looked better on video. I even asked a trainer to critique my technique if I'm performing the movement correctly. But there are some subtle details that make or break the form, and if you cannot spot them, it's a recipe for disaster. You will snap up your lower back. So here's a screenshot of the starting position, and the biggest mistake by far was having this arched upper back. And then of course at the bottom I did have the hyperextended lower back, the anterior pelvic tilt, and when I would descend into the squat with limited range of motion, I would snap up my lower back. So here's a screenshot at the bottom. On paper, on video, it looks alright. Here you have the shins, here you have the thighs. So you can see I was going deeper, even below parallel. Here's the spine. But the problem was chest is up, arched, and here lower back is hyperextended, and I would get massive torque here in the lower back, and while descending back up it would just snap. And at the very end of my squatting journey, I was performing here front squats without any shoes. So as you can see, I did test everything. I did front squats, high bar squats, low bar squats, goblet squats with shoes, without any shoes, closer stance, wider stance, various ranges of motion, but nothing helped. I snapped up my back over and over again. So at the bottom of the squat, you can see that the shins are a little bit more forward now. This enables me to get into a deeper range of motion, and the torso is a little bit more vertical compared to the previous squats that I did show you. But once again, I have the same problems, that the ribs are not stacked. So I have once again a arched upper back, and here the hips are also hyper extended. And you can see I don't have here a full range of motion. So ideally I would elevate here the heels. So that's why I can push my knees even more forward. Then the hamstrings would touch my calves, and then I would need to maintain a more vertical torso. So ideally, that's how a front squat should be looking like. So to summarize the video, the technique of the squat has been bastardized. It has been turned into a hybrid lift between a squat and a hip hinge and also a good morning. The low bar squat is predominantly dominant in our gym culture right now. Everyone strives to squat only to a parallel and not to full range of motion. That's why if you have an injury prone lower back, just like me, then you should give this technique a shot. Maybe this is your last result in making the lift work for you. So that's why I don't agree with Mike Izutel's video on front squats. They are not terrible. They are perfect to teach you how to squat properly for you. That has been the case for me because I tried low bar squatting and it didn't agree with my structure. Of course, I did make numerous mistakes, but then when I corrected the mistakes and, for example, I tried high bar back squatting, it kind of felt also strange and not right. And only after switching to the barbell front squat, everything made perfect sense. So this front squat position will help you to keep an upright torso. It will take pressure from your lower back and it will force you to use more quads. So it will be quad biased. So you will get more quad development from the movement. Your hips will not take over. And at the end of the day, you can squat in this position. Of course, the technique demands are higher compared to back squatting, but after you learn the proper technique, you will not snap up your lower back and you will get more quads out of it. So it's a win-win situation in my opinion. And then after you have mastered the front squat and you are using heavier and heavier weights and you are struggling to hold the bar here, then you can try to do the high bar squat. But in my opinion, the front squat is a good starting point, especially to teach the right technique. So front squats, they are not dumb, they are not terrible, they are not ineffective. They are a great lift, especially for hypertrophy training if you have an injury prone lower back. So here I will link a playlist if you are interested in more hypertrophy training videos, and I will see you soon next time. Bye.